Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, let's go over the market. Let's talk about Tesla, let's talk about the market, what happened, what we can expect, and all that good stuff. As usual, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button, guys. And remember, everything I say is not financial advice. So nothing I say is financial advice. Keep that in mind. Again, do your own research, make your own decisions, etc., etc., etc. Again, don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed. Let's go. Getting into it, Tesla completely skyrocketing today, almost up 8%, ending the day just somewhat shy of $195. So that is quite the rally and quite the day. Of course, it's not just Tesla. The market itself is just skyrocketing. So, honestly, Tesla is just kind of performing in line with the market, right? QQQ up about 4.6%, Tesla about almost 8%, right? More or less in line with the market there. So I wouldn't say it's an outperformance by Tesla or Tesla's doing something crazy that no one else is. It's just kind of rallying with the market. But nonetheless, the whole market itself has just absolutely skyrocketed today. I'm 100% sure. This is just ridiculous. I'm 100% sure a lot of bears and a lot of shorts got absolutely just rammed in the behind today, like hard. Let's just say, this is quite the candle you can see on the QQ, right? It looked very bearish. We broke out of this to the south side, setting up a potential what looked to be bear flag over here potentially, or like bear pennant or whatever you want to call it. And then it went up, kind of, chilled, and then just complete and utter skyrocket after Powell spoke, of course, talking about how they can potentially start, that they might potentially start considering slowing down the pace of rate hikes in as early as December, he said, right, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, the market completely obviously loved that, right? Especially then the tech, which is why tech is up so much more than, SPY. But essentially the market absolutely loved it, of course, and the market just completely and utterly rallied with, of course, Tesla following, thankfully, just as well. So let's talk about it. What does it mean? Where are we going next, right? Again, people were saying yesterday in my comments saying that I'm too optimistic or whatever, that Tesla is probably going to continue falling, and I mean, well, we're up 8% today, so I'm just saying, right? Again, I want people to understand, I don't have a bias because of a position. I have a position because I have a bias, right? So keep that in mind, right? I don't buy and then start praying it'll go up. I buy because I think it'll go up, right? That's kind of more or less what it is. But anyways, with all that being said and done, let's talk about it, what we can expect moving forward. So we pretty much are approaching that 195 resistance, right? We are once again, as usual, as you saw over here, approaching some pretty cloudy weather, I guess, if you will, right above us, right? So this is going to be a very vital level. I talked about this yesterday, even the several days before. I've always mentioned that to me, the most important and the most vital levels are these levels that we are pretty much about to enter right now, actually. This whole range right here, to me, is extremely important, right? To me, this right here is like stormy clouds, right? I'm probably not going to draw the best stormy, whatever. That's like lightning. Think of that as lightning, right? We have stormy clouds ahead, right? So this area right here, this whole area between 195 to around 204, 205, something like that, is going to be rough flying. So a lot of resistance there, guys. A lot of potential selling pressure going to be coming in pretty aggressively. So just keep that in mind. But, and however, if we somehow find a way to clear this and start closing candles, to start would be fantastic, just closing inside the storm, if you will, this kind of dangerous area of 195 to 205, right? Even just closing daily candles in there, it was already a decent start. But if we can start getting above like 204, 205 and start closing daily candles above that level, that to me will be extremely solid. Now, the most important thing to notice here, and I think is extremely obvious, I'm going to even to the point where I'll even delete this here, is the fact that we have finally closed above these two lines. The first line we did a few days ago already, and like I said, the main line I really want to see a closure of is this kind of greenish line right here, which we finally did today. We got rejected by it. If you go in the 1 hour, you can see we actually got rejected by it today, right? We came up above it a little bit, got rejected, slapped back down. It was looking kind of bearish again. You're like, my goodness. We actually gap filled yesterday, which is fantastic in my opinion. But nonetheless, we ended up gap filling it, and then you can see, as Powell spoke, we just completely and utter just blasted right through that resistance as if it's nothing and just skyrocketed to perfection. And all in all, we essentially have officially broken out of this downward channel that we were in, which is, of course, really good. Now, as usual, as I always say, in my opinion, there's two ways this can potentially play out in the kind of short term, I would say, ish. And there's a few things that I'll have that'll back it up. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if we could maybe get a bit of a rally, maybe 195, honestly, even as high as 200, and I would say best case is 204 before a bit of a pullback, right? You can't just keep going up. I mean, you can, I guess. There have been instances where we did just keep going up, right? And naturally, of course, it can happen. But, in a more, I guess, realistic, kind of more reasonable perspective, I would personally expect anywhere between here, anywhere in this range to get an ultimate retracement. Maybe worst case scenario will be to come and retest this line, which will somehow, believe it or not, will put us back down to like 178. Now, I personally don't think that's going to happen, mainly because I don't think it makes sense for us to go that low just for the sake of retesting this. I don't think that'll happen. However, with that being said and done, it wouldn't surprise me if we do come and retest around this kind of 187 to 188 level right here. You can see this line. As you can see, we have gotten, rejected and whatnot here quite a few times, right? This kind of 186 to kind of, 187, 88-ish level right here, right? This has been an area of a lot of support back here and a lot of rejection and resistance over here recently as well. Now that we finally broke through this channel and broke through this resistance of, 187-ish, wouldn't surprise me if we potentially ultimately come back all the way down as low as 186, 187, get that retest happening there, potentially get some consolidation, and then we can finally skyrocket our way back up. In my opinion, I still think 220 plus is very much in play. Now, other things to back this up is the fact that you can see on the daily, the 4 hour, the 3 hour, the 2 hour, and kind of the 1 hour. Our 1 hour is starting to get a little iffy, and you'll see what I mean more by that as we continue on the smaller time frames. But you can see, let's say the 3 hour, for instance, right, which is very nice one to look at as well. Pretty much you can see a beautiful bullish divergence. It's still forming as the stock is now finally getting higher. You can see this is also peaking up higher than any of these levels, even all the way back here, back when we were trading in like pretty much that 228-ish level. The RSI was over here, and now the RSI is higher than this level, even though we're only at 195, right? So just once again, a beautiful little bullish divergence there, right? So that's exactly what you want to see on top of a breakout. Not too shabby whatsoever, right? So I'm liking the way that's looking, right? Now, this is all good news. This is all great. And what this tells me is that the trend to the upward is not only intact, but it's just very much there, right? The trend reversal seems to definitely have been essentially executed, right? Which is great for bulls. That doesn't mean that we're just going to skyrocket up to 230. Obviously, we're going to take our time to get there. We're going to have obviously red days, maybe some even painful red days. But I do believe that this bottom right here of 167 is a decent case for potentially being the bottom. I don't think it is, but there's a decent chance it is. However, it is, in my opinion, the short-term bottom for sure, at least for the next, foreseeable future. However, all that being said, like I said, I do believe that we are going to ultimately get a beautiful rally coming up. I still think that's very possible. We maybe even touch 200. Again, best case scenario is 204 before some form of pullback, some form of retracement, and some form of consolidation before we can finally start making our way up all the way to this kind of, 220 to 230 range, which again, I personally think is in play and is my personal target. Now, all that being said, as we go on to the smaller time frames, like I said, on the 1 hour, you can see this bullish divergence, right? It's starting to get a little bit less obvious, right? You can see it is still making higher highs, but nowhere near as obvious, right? And as we go into the smaller time frames, you can see a bearish divergence actually starting to form, which obviously means that you can see right here, as the stock right here, as the stock is making its way upwards northeast, you can see the RSI is slowly actually making its way lower, right? So which isn't great, right? Obviously, you can see you have this high over here, which is around 77.6, which was back when the stock was trading on 187. We are currently at 194, and the RSI currently topped at 73, right? So definitely, a little bit lower, even though the stock went meaningfully higher, right? And it's obviously more obvious on the shorter time frames, right? You can see, right, as we kind of, are retracing lower, you can see all the way back here, this was the high point, then we came up all the way here, we just set a nice high in the RSI, and then we went even higher, and we couldn't really go higher on the RSI once again. So just, some bearish divergences setting up on the shorter time frame, which is further belief that I have that I just said, how I personally think that, maybe you'll get a bit of a higher push, maybe you'll go 195, maybe 200, maybe even 204 if we're really lucky. I don't think that'll happen. I think 200 will be the very short-term high, maybe even like tomorrow, for instance. And I do think that we will get a most likely rejection from there, and then most likely fall back down, kind of reset up this whole, RSI over here in the shorter time frames, kind of reset some potential divergences for the bullish side, of course, even though, because right now we're setting up bearish ones, right? Which again gives me a potential prediction of a pullback. But then again, all that's going to do is essentially on like the 4 hour, let's say, is just going to put up essentially another higher low, right? Because we set a low here, we set a high here, we set a higher low here, we set a higher high here. I guess in theory we set a higher low here, higher high, and then potentially come back down to set another higher low before going even higher. And then I personally think somewhere around the kind of maybe 211-ish range, once we get there, which I still think we will, or maybe once we finally start breaking this kind of 204 to 210 range and we start kind of, you know, closing candles in this area, is where I think very, very slowly we might start seeing a bearish divergence start to form on these longer time frames, which then will signify that the reversal back down is probably around the corner, which will then probably mean that we probably still have a couple more pushes up, which I think will get us to around the 220, 230 level, when the bearish divergence will really start to set in. And then I think things will start getting a lot more bearish ultimately once again, unfortunately. Again, it sucks to say, I don't want to, you know, be a bear, but I think that's still, you know, a decent amount of ways away. I don't think that's going to happen like next week or something like that. I think it'll maybe even take another month or two, to be completely honest with you. However, as hard as that is to believe, I do think that that is a possibility. Of course, we'll see. It doesn't have to happen. Technically, you know, we still have a bunch of other bullish things playing out. We can still have this overall potential inverted head and shoulders being played out right here that could set up still, right, on the daily time frame. That is still extremely possible. And also possible is on, let's say, the 2-hour time frame, for instance, or the 1 hour or whatever. We still are potentially setting up a very small version of the inverted head and shoulders, which could be something like this as well, which, you know, we could still potentially rally up all the way up to 195 to 200, most likely get rejected, and then consolidate. And then once we break, in my opinion, 200, I think is where this mini inverted head and shoulders will play out and will really kind of propel us upwards if that were to happen. So pretty good stuff overall, regardless, guys. I am very happy with this movement. I did sell calls today just for this Friday, right? So only 2 days left in the week. So I did sell calls on both my accounts. And yeah, so I'm going to see what that happens if I'm forced to, you know, sell, so be it. One of them I'm okay with. My main account I don't want to sell because my average is still higher, of course. I just want to make some, you know, cash in the, you know, in the middle of all this kind of chaos while we're here and this volatility. And then on my second account, I'm pretty much selling in profit once again. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing. Let me know what you think down below, ladies and gentlemen. But thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.